The Tomb Raider franchise has been around for a long time now. Since 1996, people have been playing as Lara Croft as she deftly traversed ancient ruins and slayed tigers that got in her way. But the series fell on some low notes as time went on, and many people believed Tomb Raider had given up its crown of action, adventure, acrobatics, and puzzle solving to Naughty Dog's Uncharted series. But fans shouldn't consider Lara Croft down for the count just yet, as Crystal Dynamics has taken the time and obvious love of the series and produced a game well geared to fight for that title again. Now, to be perfectly honest, I was never a huge Tomb Raider fan, but when I started seeing the previews for this new reboot of the series telling an all-new origin story for Lara Croft, I got excited, and after playing the finished product, I can tell you that I am really hoping for more adventures with Ms. Croft in the future. Tomb Raider begins with Lara on one of her first expeditions, working to find the ancient civilization of the Yamatai, somewhere near Japan. Immediately, the expeditionary ship is caught in a violent storm and ripped asunder, stranding the survivors on a remote island. Lara is not with the main group, and her adventure begins extremely quickly. Throughout the story, we watch as Lara grows from an inexperienced researcher into what will become the icon she is known to be. And while the story is decent, it's not without some narrative failings that help keep the gameplay moving smoothly. This begins early on, with Lara having to balance across a log. At first she is unsure of her footing and nearly falls to her death from a misstep. But after that one time, she traverses balance beams with no problem. Then she has to hunt for food and feels remorse at having to kill and gut a deer. But after that one time, she can kill and scavenge any animal without it showing that it affects her at all. The final major time is shown after Lara kills her first person in self-defense. She practically throws up right afterwards. Not a few minutes later, though, Lara is pulling off headshots like a trained marksman. I understand the gameplay reasons for this. I really do. No one wants to play a game where it takes dozens of times crossing balance beam-like objects before Lara feels comfortable. No one wants to play a game with an experience system where the lead can't bring themselves to kill and gut animals that yield some of that experience. And no one wants to play a game where the lead character simply has to fight enemies that are trying to kill her and have her aim be shaky or have her hesitate to do what she can to survive. I understand this completely. But it does take away from the narrative that is portrayed. Though at least Lara even comments that she's kind of scared at how easy it ended up being to kill people shortly thereafter.
I had to kill some of them. I had no choice.
That can't have been easy.
It's scary just how easy it was. You've got to warn the others, Roth.
Besides the gameplay necessities interfering with the narrative, the story is mostly decent, at least when it comes to Lara's characterization. Secondary characters, however, feel extremely shallow and not fleshed out. Of course, it wouldn't be a Tomb Raider game without some supernatural menace, but this is mostly not even really touched upon until much later in the game. Design-wise, this game is simply a masterpiece of design. From the graphics, to the sound, to the level design and pacing, this game shows a love for the source material rarely seen in games. Some might put comparisons forth between this new Tomb Raider and the Uncharted series, but we have to remember Uncharted got its basic ideas from the old Tomb Raider games, so think of this as more coming full circle. Graphically, this game astounds on so many levels, especially on the console versions. Environments are large in some cases and rich in detail. Little things pop out at you as you play through and you can look around in amazement. Character models are detailed even if enemy models get reused often, and animations are smooth. That this game even exists as good looking as it does on the Xbox 360 and PS3 is a feat of optimization for the developers. When looking at the graphics alone, on the consoles there is a very slight edge to the PS3 version, with slightly cleaner textures and shadows, but it is very slight. All my footage is from the Xbox 360 version, and it's no graphical slouch. The PC version, though, on a high-end PC looks freaking fantastic, especially if the gaming rig can support the hair physics for Lara, which make her ponytail and loose hair on her head react much more realistically than the consoles can ever hope to achieve. The sound design is equally good. Ambient sounds permeate the game. Weapons have a good punch to their sound, and the voice acting, well, it's hit or miss in some cases. As I said, Lara is very fleshed out and her voice actor is superb. Other characters, though, get very one-dimensional and fall into action movie stereotypes fairly quickly. Some of the enemy small talk you can hear, though, is pretty entertaining. Where Tomb Raider also stands out is in its level design. There's a purposefulness to every aspect of the design. Levels are generally large and beautiful, teasing players with areas they can't get to until they have the proper equipment. However, this purposefulness has a price. While the game appears fairly open, allowing Lara to go into many areas of each section, the actual story is very linear and there ends up being only one path to go down to continue the story. Also, there is a bit of hand-holding done by the designers to show players where they can climb with her. Pretty much if you see a ledge and it has white paint on it, Lara can climb it, and this permeates the game. Combat is fast and tense. Lara can sneak around and silently kill enemies, but the firefights come at her quickly. The cover system is very intuitive and not at all distracting. When in combat, Lara simply crouches down and can get behind any cover that is around that height. There's no button to press and there's no getting stuck on any object. Simply move the way you want to go to move. But enemies don't just let Lara sit around and pick them off. They're aggressive and try to flush her out of cover often. They'll throw dynamite and Molotov cocktails at her position to force her to not stay in one spot. They'll rush her to get close and melee her, a part of combat Lara is not so skilled at. They'll take cover themselves and not pop out for more than a second to get a shot off before ducking back down. It's extremely satisfying to play through. As the game progresses, Lara earns experience that can be spent on skills to improve her abilities. Some let her carry more ammo. One makes hunting more than just a way to pad her experience by letting her get salvage from the animals. Some increase her combat effectiveness with weapons. It's not supremely deep, mind you, but it gets the job done. There's also a weapon crafting and upgrade system in place. Salvage gained throughout the game can give each weapon additional abilities, like extra damage or alternate fire modes. Weapon parts are hidden throughout the game that fully upgrade the weapon to the next stage in its evolution, while keeping any previously gained upgrades. At the same camps where these upgrades are performed, there is also a fast travel system, allowing Lara to go back to areas she has already been to look for more things she may have missed. Not every camp has this feature, but enough do to make it worthwhile. Tomb Raider is a great action-adventure and platforming game, but Tomb Raider purists might not like the distinct lack of tombs to explore. In fact, all the tombs in the game are optional side missions that can be done as players wish. Also, sadly, each tomb is actually only a single room with a puzzle to solve to get to the goods at the end. Which brings up the distinct lack of puzzles in the main campaign Tomb Raider purists will definitely miss. There are some puzzles, but they're fairly easy and the optional tombs hold the hardest puzzles, but even they're not extremely hard. Tomb Raider is a great single-player experience. However, there isn't much of an incentive to replay the campaign. Any optional missions, items, or tombs can be completed by simply hitting continue after the campaign and fast traveling to find them. It's something for completionists, but for the one-and-done crowd, not so much. Unless there is some very compelling single-player DLC in the pipe, I can see a lot of people just being happy with one time through the game. And then there's the multiplayer. I'm going to come out and say it now. Tomb Raider is not a franchise that needs competitive multiplayer. It doesn't, at all. The multiplayer feels shoehorned in and is average at best. Though it does have a cool feature in the free-for-all deathmatch, where if someone gets on a kill streak, they become the executioner, and anyone killed while they have this buff cannot respawn until the executioner is dead, and if he kills everyone, then he wins. This is actually a cool concept, but it should have been put into a game that has better competitive multiplayer. I don't foresee people sticking to the multiplayer in Tomb Raider like they do in other games. Tomb Raider is a great game with just a few faults. The multiplayer, though, is the biggest fault that never should have been implemented, and it did affect my score. The narrative being at odds with the gameplay necessities is another fault, but one that had to be done. The distinct lack of tombs and puzzles is a letdown if you're looking for that sort of thing. Also, there is a heavy reliance on quick-time events early on in the game and with boss battles that can get fairly annoying, as even being a millisecond off can lead to failure, especially in the boss battles. But as a new origin story to a veteran video game character that desperately needed a reboot, it gets the job done, admirably.